3, 2, 1, and we are live with the unstoppable Matthew Steeples.
Hello and good afternoon to you all, and hope you're coping on this rainy day. And where is spring in London? It's not arrived here, and but spring has sprung in lots of other places. But we've got all sorts of chaos throughout the world. It's absolutely a mad time. We're going from the bonkers to the banal to the bashful to the completely insane, aren't we?
And Matthew does not just draw on his extensive research into the Epstein Maxwell case. He has a vast network of connections from whom he gets all of these nuggets of information nobody else has.
I will tell you first. I'll give you my little world exclusive. I did a little bit of a Shaun Attwood trick on Monday night. I went to a book launch about Peter Rackman with a man called Neil Root. You must buy his book about Peter Rackman. Fabulous guy. I do talk TV with him. He's involved in lots of crime cases. Brilliant writer about Jack the Ripper and all those things, but don't really interest me. But a nice writer, lovely man. And on the way back, we decided we'd walk past Kinnerton Street. So I decided to have a little bang on the door. And the door was opened by a lady who I would say was in her 30s. I would say she was the doppelganger of Ghislaine, but 30 years younger. And I said, who are you? Do you happen to live here? And I said, are you anything to do with Ghislaine? She said, I've never heard of her. And then she slammed the door. So I was honored to cause a bit of a ruckus with a lady I think may have been one of her nieces. And I don't know if that house has been sold. We don't know how the process has gone on. We have no idea what has gone on with that property because it has been for sale multiple times at different prices. I think that is a very interesting affair. You know, my story with the Daily Mail was about the bathtub in that house. They did pay me for that. I'm very honest, and I will admit that I'm paid for information. I was paid, and I proved that she lied to the FBI about the size of the bathtub. And I do think that maybe through her associates like Mr. Grumbridge, the solicitor, Malcolm Grumbridge, and Brian Basham, the Dirty Tricks PR man, who threatened to confront you and I. There you are. There's your video of you outside the Kinnerton Street house. The door is now painted a different color, and there are weeds growing out of the house. It's all a bit of a mess. It's a very strange house. I don't understand why Ghislaine would have bought a house opposite a pub, because lots of people were coming and going. She couldn't exactly do things privately there. And in many emails that Jeffrey Epstein wrote, he would say, if I'm in London, we'll meet at Ghislaine's house. So it wasn't like they weren't being watched when they were there. I would have thought that she would have chosen a more private place to exist. But then that door is the same door, but it's now painted grey. And a random woman opened it. So there you go. That's my little story from Monday about that. And then in the time since, I happened to have a little lunch yesterday with a lady called Lady Victoria Harvey. I had a little bit of a Twitter spat, or whatever you want to call it, an X or whatever. I was X'd by her. She blocked me. So I telephoned her and I said, would you like to come and have lunch with me? And we had a little lunch with my friend Bungalow yesterday, Bungalow Bill Wiggins, a man who is known for having not much upstairs and a lot down below. He was the lover of Joan Collins, and we asked her a fair few questions. I'm not going to go too much into them, but I will say that she came out very much in defense of Andrew, and she had lots of remarks positive about everybody, including the Clintons, which surprised me. I was quite surprised by her remarks. So we might go into that in more detail on another occasion, but there's so much to talk about here. There's the whole matter of Princess Beatrice and the spy, the alleged spy with the Labour MP. It's a bit John Profumo all over again. So you ask me any questions you'd like to ask me, and I'll take it from there.
Okay, Matthew, huge thank you for coming on. And viewers, please support Matthew at the Steeple Times. All
Yes,
his
well,
links are in the
here's a
description box.
glass of wine. Cheers to you, and cheers to me, and cheers to you all if you disagree. But we can. I hope you'll send me some glasses of wine. That'd be nice.
So, this spy story, Matthew, what could you elaborate, please?
Okay, so there's a man named David Taylor. He is married to a Labour MP called Joannie Reid, spelt Joani. Never heard of anyone called Joni like that before. She has declared it's the worst week of her life. There's no accusations against me, but he has been arrested. He was touring Nepal and other parts of that region for 9 days in 2016 with a charity that she's involved in called the Franks Family Foundation. She was a patron. She may still be a patron. So Beatrice is, up to her neck in it again. I did say to everybody, I think Beatrice and Eugenie are very, very silly people because they've chosen throughout this problem to associate with Middle Eastern families and Chinese people, like the mother who has the tea company. They're all to do with China. China is somewhere where, we have a lot of problems with this country with spying. Look at Ian Duncan Smith and trying to help that poor man who's locked up in prison and he shouldn't be there. It's a terribly toxic situation. So as a member of the royal family, she ought to be better advised and better behaved. That is an absolutely appalling choice by her. She is a weak link, and I don't blame her for who her parents are, but she is now an adult, and it is time that we take some responsibility. Her mother referenced in the emails the simple shagging weekend, basically, that Beatrice was on, why she couldn't turn up to meet Epstein. This is disgusting. And Lady Victoria yesterday said to me, well, that's just a normal way that people like us communicate. I said back to her, I said, I have never, ever written a thing like that of a child. My daughter's on a shagging. I don't have any children, but would I ever say that my child was on a shagging weekend? Or would you?
No, disgusting.
It's disgusting language. And I called her out for this because I said that is a ludicrous thing to say. It's crazy and it's weird. And, the begging of Fergie to Epstein, just is disgusting enough. But the fact that we have Mandelson, the traitorous MP, and now we have another dodgy guy who's married to a Labour MP, I think Keir Starmer needs to be held to account here. We need an investigation into Keir Starmer's decision to be involved with these people who are potentially leaking our state secrets to China. And that is not a good thing to be involved in. Those Chinese people, there's plenty of lovely Chinese people in the world. There's nothing wrong with Chinese people. But these Chinese, like the Russians, they are not our friends when it comes to all of these matters. They are up to no good. And this man, David Taylor, is accused of being a spy, and his wife is an Labour MP. This is not good enough. And it's time for Keir Starmer to go. Keir Starmer is a toxic piece of trash.
So when Epstein visited the Clintons at the White House like 24 times,
17 times.
Yeah, that's right. And Mark Middleton was a broker for some of those deals. Anyway,
so he's dead. He's dead.
And it ended up with technology that shouldn't be sold to China being sold to China. And Wexner had his airplanes flying out of Ohio, I think, to Hong Kong, with no scrutiny to take the technology.
And we also had Epstein's planes flying into RAF bases in England with people who aren't listed on those planes. Why would anyone be allowed to do this? Normal people have to have flight logs. Why no flight logs for these people? And Lady Victoria said to me yesterday, the youngest was 17 years and 10 months. Well, I don't believe that to be true. I think we can go back to the triplets I did get it wrong on Andrew Gold's program where I mentioned twins, and I have been corrected by Kirby Summers, who we both respect. She has written me a series of messages, and I would like to give her a salute for all her campaigning. But the triplets were allegedly 13 years old. We have people in these things who are far younger than you can imagine. This man Epstein was nothing other than a monster, but what he was playing around with, they mentioned today he's allegedly been linked to Putin, but they can't prove it. I think he tried to get to Putin, but Putin wasn't for him. Putin didn't need him. He wasn't big enough for him. I know a man who's called Mr. Pugachev, who was known as Putin's banker, and he is somebody who would have had a link with Putin. Epstein was not in that financial league. Epstein dealt with hundreds of millions. This man dealt with billions. We're talking a different league of success and connection here. And Epstein, as evil and monstrous as he wasn't. He was playing people off and telling a lot of lies and exaggerating his role in the story. He wasn't quite as powerful as he makes himself out to be, but he did have very useful idiots like Peter Mandelson and the Andrew, formerly known as Prince. So that is the problem we've got there.
So viewers, if you didn't see Matthew on Heretics, you're seeing him on the screen.
I believe it's been watched about 530,000 times as of today, and it's only been there for 5 days, which makes me more popular on there than Robbie Williams, and I can't believe it. I don't know why anyone would want to listen to my random ramblings, but I do support the victims in this story, and I think they deserve more of a voice. And I think some of these crazy people I meet who are making apologies for these dreadful people need to learn to be silent. And, yesterday another man came up to me who is a friend of Andrew, and he said, enough is enough. You'll tip this man over the edge.
Put a 1 in the chat if you did not see Matthew on Heretics. Put a 2 in the chat if you did see Matthew on Heretics. And if you want to watch Matthew on Heretics, the link is in the description box, and I'm also
yes. And I love coming on Shaun Attwood. I love coming on the Shaun Attwood program. I love doing the programs of my own, and I love doing the Andrew Gold. I think he's excellent, and I have been invited. I do a lot with Talk TV in the past, but I think they've kind of lost their focus on crime. They're more interested in politics for the moment, which everything is moving to YouTube, and I think Piers Morgan is doing a fabulous job with that. I don't do anything with him myself, but I think he is actually shaking the world up, and he gives people a voice, like Lady Victoria, where she actually comes out with her remarks. And I said to her yesterday, I agree with some of the things you say, but I said a lot of what you come out with is utterly crazy. And when she started to say the Clintons are innocent, I was utterly astounded, because given she is spending her time at Mar-a-Lago, and she is there quite a lot at Mar-a-Lago with Nigel Farage as in garage, never say his name is Farage, because he isn't. I'd like to know who is funding that, and I wasn't able to get an answer about that yesterday. But look, Lady Victoria should not be cancelled. Lady Victoria should be allowed to express her opinion. She did spend time in this story, and more than you or I, because she was with these people. But anyone who comes out and suggests that Jeffrey Epstein was a nice man is ridiculous. It is very clear that he was far from a nice man. He was a nefarious F*** bastard. Let's be honest. This is a wicked, evil man who was profiteering and up to no good, and he was using and abusing whatever he could. Who controlled him, we don't know, but I believe it to be Robert Maxwell. And I believe he was a washing machine. And this Leslie Wexner, well, he didn't make a great success of himself during those hearings. The Clintons made utter prats of themselves. The Clintons, you've written books about the Clinton crime family, as we call them, Hillary and all of that. I had people yesterday who know the Clintons talking to me as well, and you can't criticize the Clintons. It's unfair. They're being set up. What a load of old rot. The Clintons were at my friend's family's hotel in South Africa, and they took Juliet Bryant from the hotel. It's happened. Juliet Bryant was a victim. Now, Juliet is a lovely lady and a friend of a friend. I speak with her, but I've never met her. But some of the things that she does say, perhaps I wouldn't agree with either. But she is a victim, and she was taken there, and she was treated badly. And these people deserve their voice. And it's wrong. It's utterly wrong that people like Lady Victoria say these people are just trash. And Sarah Ferguson says they're trash and they're liars. Well, the real trash in the story is Sarah Ferguson. She is the very worst person in the whole story to me, because she has been going around doing children's charities all these years, like the Pact thing, which was run by Sir Christopher and Lady Mayor, two of the worst grifters I've ever come across, two very nasty people. And it turned out their charity had to be closed down. And she was sanctioned in the House of Lords for calling an Indian peer Lord Poppadom. These are not nice people, and they don't communicate in a pleasant fashion. They don't do things properly. They don't care about other people. They care about what they can get in their personal pocket. And it's time this changed. It is time for a reevaluation, and well done to Andrew Lowney for writing a book about them that really did change the narrative. I salute him for his work, and I salute Kirby Summers for her work, and I salute you for writing all your books about the Clintons. So I think you've all done good things, and it's time we had more of this and not less of it. And with this Labour MP, yet again, this sanctimonious Labour Party in Britain that was going to be cleaner than dirty old Rishi, who gave eat out to help out and the bounce back loans and all of this. And he was involved with, dodgy companies, and he's from a billionaire family. Well, I think we might all actually, in about 6 months' time, say, God, we wish Rishi Sunak would come back. We don't need Angela Raving Rayner or Rachel Reeves, Queen of Thieves.
All right, while you're plugging my books, then let me just mention to the viewers, I've written 2 books on the Clintons. One's called Clinton, Bush, and CIA Conspiracies, from the boys on the tracks to Jeffrey Epstein. And the other one is Who Killed Epstein, Bill Clinton, or Prince Andrew, as he was.
Brilliant books and a must read. I recommend them wholeheartedly to all of you.
Available on worldwide on Amazon, audio, ebook, paperback. All right, so the super chat question. Do you think Lady Victoria is probably an accomplice? But birds of a feather do flock together.
Well, my interesting thing with Lady Victoria was that I don't know how she funds going to this Mar-a-Lago. It's a very expensive place. It's $150,000 a year to be a member.
Woo!
I don't think she's quite in the league of paying for that. So how does she happen to be there? But she didn't want to answer questions about that. So I wasn't able to extract an answer. But look, she was prepared to come and talk to me. I respect her for that. And I'm quite happy to debate her or have a program with her or do something with her. Yes, I have been very critical of her in the past and some of her strange remarks. And I said, I do agree with you. Some of the victims are not victims. Some of these people, when there is a gravy train the size of what has been given out by all these banks, you are going to get people who are fakes. It's just like what happened with Carl Beach, the fake fantasist who ruined it for all the victims of the VIP abuse in Westminster. Carl Beach was rightly jailed for his lies. Carl Beach is a disgusting human being and should not be out of prison, but he's just got out. I do think some of these victims are not victims, but I think it is wrong to attack them all and call them trash and losers and all the horrible, horrible things that have been said. Because as you know, with our friend Dr. Das, we talked about how some people who are abused go on to become an abuser, and some people have all these false memories, and some people, they get facts wrong because times have gone on. As Victoria rightly said to me yesterday, I can't remember what I was doing 20 years ago, and how can they? And in some cases, I have a weird memory. I have like a photographic. I can't do numbers, but I can do words, and I remember weird things. But we all have a different way of remembering things, but not everybody is telling the truth. Of course, they're not. We know that. You have to be careful of who you select as a source and what you say. And a fact is not a fact until you've checked it's a fact. Go after the facts. And there will be people here who are telling lies to make money. And that is undoubtable. But I think the majority of these poor people, like, for example, Juliet Bryant, she was taken from South Africa. She was promised a modeling contract, and then she was taken to an island where she couldn't escape. And that is an appalling thing. She had no family in America. She'd never left South Africa. She must have been terrified. And that lady deserves saluting for her courage in speaking out.
And her mum said she spoke to Jeffrey before she let her go on that trip.
Yeah, and he lied.
And he assured her he was a philanthropist, spent an hour on the phone with her.
And Wicked Ghislaine was the clever little nice woman who went out to the park in the car, and she'd say, "Little girls, come this way. There's all these nice little sweeties. Come to the house." Ghislaine was like the lovely little mother figure. And then we've got, the Jess Staleys writing, "Oh, we want a bit more Snow White." The language these people use, and I tried to quiz Victoria about this particularly. Victoria thinks that is normal. I don't think that is normal. I don't know anyone who communicates in this way. And these people were educated people. Let's be honest, Jeffrey Epstein was a mathematics genius. He was clever. He was a fraudster. Yes, he was running Ponzi schemes. He was manipulating people out of money. But he had a brilliant mind like all of those people. He was clever, and that's why he was involved with this man, Stephen Hoffenberg, and all the rest of them. He wasn't a stupid man.
All right, I'll read you a comment from Skeets. Pam Bondi was asked to apologize to the victims in a hearing. They stood up to accept her apology, and she refused to look at them. This is not that complex. The level of evil is real.
Well, Pam Bondi is just a stupid person who has been over promoted, and I think Pam Bondi deserves to be cancelled. Let's have her shut down. She's an irrelevance. I agree with the comment totally, 100%. Pam Bondi does not care about victims. She's an utterly wrong person. She's got no sympathy. But Hillary Clinton was sitting there telling a pack of lies also. Hillary Clinton should be dealt with properly. Hillary should be in jail.
Maxwell was like the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Precisely. She went off to the park with all these other ones and she lured them in. She went to Mar-a-Lago. And Victoria and I did agree on this. Victoria is one of the sensible people when it comes to the address book. The address book was not Jeffrey Epstein's address book. I've said it all along. The address book was Ghislaine's, and he was benefiting from her address book. People like the Heseltine family, they said to me, we never met this man. We knew her, but we didn't know her that well. They had 2 phone numbers. The Duchess of York had 19 phone numbers. You can see the complexity of the relationship from the difference between 2 phone numbers and 19. Okay, maybe I overanalyze this all a lot, but I've spoken to so many people from that address book, and they all say, we never met this man, we met her. And I don't think they're telling a lie. I've met multiple people in recent weeks, weirdly, who now say, well, we did meet Jeffrey Epstein, and they all want to talk to me. They didn't want to talk to me 2 years ago, but now they realize it's better to talk to me because they know that I will give them a fair hearing and say, well, what was your real involvement with him? That man I quoted the other day to you. Let me find his quote. Sorry, one moment.
That's fine. 2/3 of the viewers said they've seen you on Heretics. 1/3 of the viewers said they've not seen you on Heretics.
So this man I met the other day said, I knew Epstein. I liked him. He made lewd jokes, but I liked him. I did not find him as bad as he's made out to be. This is a financier who worked with him. Everyone wanted his money. He wasn't like a dirty old man. He did all of his accused of privately. We never saw it. And I can believe perhaps that may be the case. People have compartments in their life. And a young lady who I know, who comes from a very grand family, I won't name her, but she stopped me in the street 2 days ago and she said, I watch everything you do. I read it. And she said, what you've forgotten is that Ghislaine did good things for the oceans.
Oh, God.
I was so astounded, I didn't answer. I said, oh, I wish I'd said, well, she didn't do good things for the children. And I should have given that lady a telling off, but I didn't. And I regret that. That was a mistake. But I was just so shocked. I'm finding in recent days, everything is starting to change because everybody now wants to talk to me about the things that they didn't want to ask me about 5 years ago, like Channel 4, who came to see me in 2020. And I said, the Metropolitan Police were investigating Ghislaine in 1994, and they knew I was correct. Now everybody wants to talk about this all of a sudden. You got involved in this 2019, I think it was as well. It's interesting how we're suddenly relevant to this, whereas we weren't relevant before.
Well, we were pressured out of we were censored before, weren't we? And for some reason they've opened the floodgates now and everybody's jumping on it.
And there will be revelations about Trump coming, clearly, but they will be controlled.
Well, that's the thing,
I don't know how they will be controlled, but they will be controlled because he is president of the biggest, the most powerful nation on the earth. So it does suit you to have this whole war going on right now. Yes, it's a very good. He likes a bit of a distraction, does old Donald. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I wasn't a fan of Biden. I'm certainly not a fan of Clinton, but it does suit his narrative right now to have this matter, kind of the Dubai situation with the whinging, whining Petra Eccleston going, please pray for me. I'm stranded in Dubai. My poor little life. Get me a private jet out of here. All of these stupid stories about these idiots that are out, they chose to go there. They chose not to pay tax. They chose their life. I have no sympathy for them either.
Which leads to the big question, Matthew, because if you go back decades, people have been leaning on presidents of America to attack Iran for decades, and none of them have been crazy enough to do so. And Trump himself criticized Obama, etc., for thinking about attacking Iran, and now he's done the complete opposite. So, do you think that they've got leverage on him? For example, possibly a picture of Trump with his trousers down in a changing room at some beauty pageant with Jeffrey Epstein?
No. I think the question which I've asked again and again, and my friend Angelo, who's sitting next to me here, tells me one of my most popular articles is one I wrote about Melania Trump. Was she trafficked? Did she meet Epstein or Trump first? I believe she met Epstein before she met Trump. They were best friends at the time. And his planes were going back and forth to, where she came from. I believe that it's quite likely, with his modeling agency connections, that this woman who didn't even have a visa, passport, etc., could have met Jeffrey Epstein before she met her current husband.
Right. Tell us more.
That is a compromising situation. Okay, Epstein can't do anything more about it. We can't prove if Epstein was lying or not because he's dead. And Lady Victoria did come out with a similar remark about Mohammed Fayed yesterday. She said it's disgusting that we are attacking him because he's dead. I said, well, you can't libel the dead for starters, but he's got 300 victims as well. And I have spoken with quite a few victims of him. And he is like he's actually probably worse than Jimmy Savile, but we haven't quite gone down that rabbit hole yet because the world has been distracted with Epstein. We haven't got to Fayed yet. Fayed is, there's a bit of coverage here and there, but it's not quite in the league. But, Fayed impacted in our country. We are sitting here in the UK we should be as equally outraged about what he was doing, in the biggest department store in London, where, mothers brought their 13-year-old child and he took them up and did whatever revolting things he did with them. So we must go after all of these people. You've spoken with Kai Bickle, the victim of, the son of Peter Nygaard, another monster. And Lady Victoria tells me he's the only one who's actually evil, she said. She said Fergie's innocent. She said Andrew's innocent, Epstein's innocent, Ghislaine's innocent. I said, well, and Bungalow Bill said to me, well, which one is guilty? And she said Peter Nygaard. She said he's the only one. And that's what these people believe. Well, if that's what people like this believe, they are utterly crazy, in my view. But I think they have a right to express their opinion. And she tells me that this man, Jay Beecher, who is employed by Brian Basham, who ran the Dirty Tricks campaign for British Airways and was Robert Maxwell's PR spokesman, he paid Jay Beecher $80,000 to go harassing all these victims, and that is documented. I'd like to know who was paying, if anyone is paying Lady Victoria, and I did ask her that on Twitter, and she blocked me. I wasn't allowed to ask that yesterday, so I still don't have an answer to that very question.
So we put a poll up.
Okay, someone said stop attacking Trump. I'm not attacking Trump. I'm not attacking Donald Trump at all. Donald Trump is a disruptor. I think some of the things Donald Trump has done have been positive, but I don't think he's a force for good. But I think he was better than the alternative. Who wanted Hillary, and who wanted Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe? But I am not going to come out and say I support Donald Trump. I do not support Keir Starmer. Angelo here put me on this TikTok thing. I don't know anything about TikTok. Every time I rant about Keir Starmer, it goes completely mad. Michael Barrymore or Keir Starmer are my populist topics on there. I don't like any of these people. I'm very much politically homeless. So the person who says stop attacking Trump, perhaps you should realize I'm not attacking Donald Trump. I'm attacking the entire system.
Well, Donald Trump is a PDF file enabler, maybe a PDF file himself, and is now a mass murderer. The mask is your angry viewer thinks I'm attacking Donald Trump. I am not personally attacking Donald Trump. Let me make that very clear to them, whoever they may be. So the poll states it's bouncing around 80% of the viewers think that Trump was compromised into attacking Iraq.
Well, I think it rather suits Iraq and China. He gets very worked up in the way he expresses Iran. He's Iran-ting. Yes, we know he's completely crazy, but it rather suits him to deflect from the situation he's in. But what Lady Victoria said yesterday was that she thought the Clintons were innocent. And she's hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. So are they all in it together?
It's one big club.
Are they actually all really just friends? Remember, the Clintons attended Donald Trump's wedding, for example. And Ghislaine Maxwell, attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding. But Hillary doesn't remember how this occurred. She was just a +1. No, the mother of the bride decides who comes to the wedding. I'm sorry. That's a pathetic excuse.
And it's all one big network. So
if they didn't want Ghislaine there, they would have said, no, thank you. We don't want you here.
All right. You've got loads of Lady V questions.
Okay. Well, Lady V. Okay. Well,
Marie says, I don't like that V is saying that all these people are innocent without coming with evidence of that. What does she explain that with?
The victims, as they are called, one of them, for example, she said she was 17 years and 10 months, so therefore she can't be a victim. She chose what she did. And then they come back for more. And they kept asking for money, and they kept writing nice emails. That's her entire explanation of that, from what I gathered from yesterday.
So Marianne wants to know, do you think that V is a hired royal family shill because the royal family themselves can't be seen to be defending themselves?
Well, I would say no, because I asked her directly, what was her relationship with these people? What is your contact? And she was very evasive about that. I don't think her connection is as strong as it's been made out to be. I think she did spend time with him in the year 2000 and with Ghislaine, but she wasn't so close as she makes herself out to be. But it suits her narrative because she's making money out of appearing on all these programs and whatever else she's choosing to do. So I do think it's perhaps a bit overhyped, but as I also said, if she were Vicky from Slough, who did not have a title, nobody would be even interested in her opinion. And I said, you are someone who has privilege and you've had an upbringing and in Monaco and you've been around with all these people. And I said, well, what about your friendship with Naomi Campbell? And she said, oh, what a lovely lady. And I thought, she's one of the worst of these people. Her whinging videos, what a horrible woman that one is. She's banned from British Airways for life for attacking the staff. She's a vicious, horrible person. And all of these people, they stick together, and it's very, very unpleasant. And I've met a lot of these people, but I've been prepared to call them out for years. And I was told, shut up. Like Lady Victoria said to Tom Bower, shut up, old man, go back to bed or whatever. But yesterday we had a perfectly rational discussion, and I coped with it, and she coped with it. But I didn't agree with 90% of what she had to say.
Well said. So we've got another question here. Actually, it says, Cape Diva says, what a lovely voice you've got to attack Trump with. It's so nice when you speak.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm glad you like my voice, but I think my voice is terrifying, but clearly not to her. So thank you, young lady. I don't get your name because it's disappeared. But thank you to the nice lady.
Why does the media have Lady V on their shows?
Because she's got a title and because she's got connections and she gets herself around and she goes to Mar-a-Lago. She goes here, there, and everywhere. So she's found a way in. But do we know who is actually funding her in reality? Because she mentioned Jay Beecher yesterday, and I don't like Jay Beecher. My friend Peter Jukes, who wrote Waking the Dead, sued him for libel successfully. He was involved in this political lie. He was thrown out of UKIP. And he's been here, there, and everywhere. He's living in Ukraine. He went to see Sarah Ransom, who Victoria has some very big problem with. I can't talk about what she showed me about that because it might compromise her situations from what she tells me. But these people, they stick together. They're like birds of a feather. And yet that the person who said that earlier, they are rotten birds of a feather.
Next question is, Matthew, how long have you been a journalist?
Well, I got into writing, I think it was about 2012 when I helped expose Sir Christopher and Lady Mayer, who ran a charity to do with missing children. And that was all to do with the Madeleine McCann case. And I spent time meeting the McCanns and people who criticized the McCanns. And recently I did a dinner with Martin Brunt, and I'm going to be doing more of my dinners. I'd love you to come and do a dinner with me. We'll do a dinner and we'll talk about Hillary and Ghislaine and all of them. People love the fact that I actually go out there and take a different angle on this. Lots of people hate me, but I have a kind of very loyal following who have encouraged me to go after the stories that other people wouldn't go near. But I do so in a way that is a bit different to all these supposed grand influencers and all the rest. I don't know anything about technology. I'm completely inept. I like writing things down in my notebook. Here we are. That's how I work. I'm old-fashioned and I'm from a different era, really. I think very differently. You've met some of my friends who work at the Daily Mail. They all say to me, "You do the things that we're not allowed to do, but we like that of you." And that's what I like to do, is to go where they can't go. because there used to be great funding for proper journalism. There were real journalists out there. And unfortunately, because there's no budgets, because everybody just wants to read about the Kardashians and all that nonsense and watch silly videos on TikTok, which I'm on this TikTok. I don't understand anything about it. I don't know why I even get watched. It's crazy. But I like real stories. And today I was stopped in the street in the Pavilion Road by some people. They said, we're opening a cafe newsagent here. I said, newsagent? You're opening a newsagent in these times? I said, people get everything on the internet. So can we film you and ask some questions? So they did. And they said, what magazines do you read? And I said, well, I read The Spectator, or I read The Economist. I said, I read the Financial Times. I read all sorts of things. And they said, well, do you read Hello? I said, I'd rather read Goodbye. You know, I think we don't need all this vacuous celebrity guff anymore in our world. We need some return to real citizen journalism. And you're very good at this. And I salute you, because you are prepared to give alternative voices a chance. And some of the people you have on, I will say, I don't agree with. And some of my views you probably don't agree with. But I think that's good that we can have differing opinions. And that's what we need.
Matthew, can you list a few of the positives Trump has done for the average American person?
Well, he got rid of Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. It's as clear and simple as that. Putting a stop to those two revolting pieces of toe rag was a wonderful thing that Donald Trump did. I will not say much else in his favor, given I think he is the Trump crime family, and him and his family are profiteering all over the globe and taking as much money as they can, and that is morally wrong and bankrupt. And I don't like him, but look, he has been vaguely respectful to Britain, because he loves Britain because of his mother's Scottish heritage. He hasn't been. He's been a little too over-forgiving, I'd say, to Keir Starmer, the farmer harmer, and I really hate Keir Starmer. I've got more of a problem with Keir Starmer than I have with Donald Trump. Keir Starmer has fucked our country. He is a disgrace. He is absolutely despicable. He is degenerate and disgusting, and what a cowardly little weak being he is. And I really have a problem with Keir Starmer over Donald Trump. Sorry, I get very angry about Keir Starmer. He really annoys me. But I'm really worried what Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner could do if they take over. I think it's most likely to be Raving Rayner, because Raving Rayner is on the warpath, and she's a very vitriolic, wicked, evil woman.
Do you think Charles or Savile will turn up in the files?
I don't see any connection between Savile and Epstein. It's a different era. Epstein is more 1990s. Savile is more 1980s. Obviously, King Charles is mentioned, but his brother was the associate, not him. I think he probably has things to fear from this story, and of course, that's why he's spoken out. I'm not suggesting he's innocent of not handling the situation better, and nor was the late Queen. And I feel the late Queen really could have done more to stop this. I think it was her blind spot, and I have said that here. I've said it in the past, and I will be criticized because you're not allowed to attack the late Queen, but the late Queen she showed bad judgment. And she showed so much good judgment during her reign, but with this matter, she showed very bad judgment.
All right, well said. Let me. Skeets is saying Maggie Thatcher and Brexit effed England, but you.
Well, I was involved with a lady called Gina Miller, and we were enemies of the people, and we opposed Brexit. Yes, you can say maybe I opposed Brexit for personal reasons, because I spend time traveling in Europe, and I don't like the fact that we can't travel as easily, and that's where I get criticized. You can criticize me all you want. Brexit has been a disaster for Britain. It's bad for farming. It's bad for business. It was a stupid idea. It was backwards. We should have taken over Europe, not walked away from it. And that's my personal view. But Gina Miller challenged Brexit on a simple principle, and then a man called Viscount St. David's offered a reward to kill her, and then he attacked me as well, and he went to prison. So I went through all of this hell with Brexit, with this Tommy Robinson EDL mad people that decided they thought that I was a danger to the people and all the rest of it. So no, I've no time for people like Tommy Robinson and all that trash who tell lies about these boats. Yes, we need to change what happens here. We need to get Britain back to being great again, but it's not going to be back to being great again by going backwards. We have to accept the modern world that we're living in, and we've got to create jobs and prosperity. And Keir Starmer isn't achieving this, but we need a sensible party. Farage or Farage is not the solution. We need something rational and reasonable. And it's definitely not that loopy Zach Polanski who thinks that women can have something I can't mention on here, I'm sure. And it's certainly not that clown Ed Davey. It's a joke. And Margaret Thatcher was very, very dear to me. I had spent a lot of time with Margaret and Dennis and Carol, and I won't say the same of her brother, but we need something sensible like Margaret again. Yes, we need someone who's going to shake up the system. And Donald Trump has done that a bit to an extent in America, but then he's gone a bit bonkers. Let's be honest. He's gone bonkers.
Taking us to World War III as we speak.
We don't need a World War III. We don't need any World War at all. We need some rationality from everybody in this scenario. And that's never going to come from Farage, the profiteer, who has 75% of the shares of the Reform UK party. And Reform has recruited some really bad people. Like, I know a lady I fell out with recently because she's become a Reform candidate. She's been in porn films. They're going to have a lot of problem with their vetting. They've got some really lowbrow people they've recruited. And I'm quite prepared to call them out over that, because I think if they are going to have a chance of running our government, we must have decent people, as we must see with the Labour Party, not people who are whose husbands are spies in China, who are hanging around with Princess Beatrice. We don't need any more of this. We need some rationality and we need some reason.
All right, we have got 12 references to Jimmy Savile in the Epstein files.
Okay.
And one
can you quote one of them at me, because I haven't got this in front of me.
Yeah, one in particular is really fascinating.
Okay.
So let me scroll this a bit. So they went to a trade show that was really awful in New Orleans. Glenn Dubin and Leon Black were present, and Jimmy Savile was the entertainment for the night. Redacted described it as pretty disgusting. When asked why it was disgusting, she explained that it was disgusting because she was in a room full of perverted men. Gooblet and his team tried to get Redacted in the in crowd, which she did not want to be in. They offered her money and offered to change her life at the time. Nothing made sense to her. Redacted has since put everything together. And there's 4 pages of this. I've only read a fraction of it, but it involves Maxwell as well. So it looks like there was a bit of overlap if this isn't
well, there could be because he would have been around 1990s, but he is more 60s, 70s, 80s than 1990s, 2000s, because he died, was it early 2000s or mid 2010 or something? I don't know what year he died, but Epstein got out of prison 2008. I don't think Savile was around 2019 when all of this happened. I think his dates are too early for major connections here. I do connections by the strength of the connection, and I can't see how and Epstein's connections to London is something I've been really looking into. I did a thing with a friend of ours, Amanda, who we had a lovely lunch the other day, and we decided to do our little timeline of this woman, Aldine Honey, who claims that Epstein came to London 1974, age 21, bought an apartment, Eaton Square. I don't believe he could be doing that, because he was a school teacher in 1974. in New York. He'd been interrailing in 1973. He was from a poor family from, Coney Island, and he didn't. How could he afford an apartment? Eaton Square is like the ritziest address. The Ford family had a house there. We're talking about serious wealth. We're talking about Arab sheikhs. We're not talking about some man from Coney Island. It's not going to work. But in the 1970s, we get a contrast here, which could be true. Elliot Wolk, who worked at Bear Stearns with him in the Birthday Book, which was a book given by Ghislaine for one of his, I think it was his 50th birthday. He says, when we worked together on the Epstein family accounts, the Maxwell family accounts, 1970s. So that could be true. Miss Honey and her son, Miss Honey's son has said, if I continue to call their offices, I will be reported for harassment. I am not going to shut up about Miss Honey. And, in the emails, it's honey, honey, Miss Money, honey. And she's begging to stay in 2008 to 2013 with Epstein. But we've got 1981 with the Lease family. They were involved with Adnan and Khashoggi, and they lived in the Cotswolds, South Wrexhall Manor. They were very wealthy Hong Kong financiers, and they were involved with all sorts of very powerful people. He definitely spent time in 1981. That's how he met the Bullingdon Club. That's how I believe he probably met Rachel Johnson, Boris Johnson, Ghislaine. I think that's probably the time he met them. And then Andrew Lowney tells me 1985, but he's never explained why 1985. But I think 1981 is more credible. And then we've got 1990, Robert Maxwell, tries to buy a paper in New York. He's definitely there meeting Epstein, but Ghislaine claims she never met Epstein until 1992. But in 1992, as I've always said to you, she is photographed at the memorial lunch for her father, sitting between Epstein and her mother. He would not be at the top table at dinner unless he was very important.
Yeah,
and that is where we've got the lie. It's what did he do in London, and why were the Metropolitan Police not dealing with this 1994 when I've got proof of activity in 1994. I have actual proof of that. And Channel 4 wanted to do things. Now everyone seems to be interested in this all again. Cressida Dick, of course, goes to school with Ghislaine Maxwell. Cressida Dick was the chief of the Metropolitan Police. Cressida Dick's father was her tutor at Oxford University. You see the connections. And I'm not making this up. I've spent years researching this, but I can't quite work out. There are areas here that could be a bit wrong. I think 1974 is too early, but 1981 is probably a bit late. So, yes, he could have come across Savile in that period. Yes, and in London, Savile did have very strong connections in London with Edward Heath, who was the Prime Minister also, as well as Margaret. So you can't just blame Margaret Thatcher for this. Edward Heath and him were known to go on a yacht together, and they went to Jersey with the children's home. I think Edward Heath has a far lot more to be blamed for if you want to go after somebody than Margaret. I will admit Margaret also had a blind spot with him, and that was an error. But when I knew Margaret before she died, this was never something we talked about because Jimmy Savile hadn't come up with this stage. And I wasn't really thinking about these things. So it wasn't a logical question for me to ask at that time. But yeah, lots of people always said he was creepy, but nobody ever went after him until Louis Theroux. And Louis Theroux did a fantastic job. And, I met him because of Neil and Christine Hamilton, who made a program with him when Louis met Neil and Christine, and Christine gave a speech on my 21st birthday party. I'm not going to lie, I have met a lot of these people, but I never met Jimmy Savile, so I can't claim to be an expert on him.
Wolf wants to know, why is no one connecting Maxwell's spying to the current Iran attack?
Well, the Maxwell family was certainly involved in espionage, in my view. The mystery guest isn't here today, so we can't bring him in on this information. But I do believe that there are strong connections with Mossad, with Maxwell, of course. Ghislaine could have gone to live in Israel, but why she didn't go, I don't know. And yesterday, Lady Victoria said of, her lover, her husband, Scott Bulgarison, he's stolen everything. He's the real wrong and he's the baddie. It wasn't Ghislaine. Ghislaine did nothing wrong and all that. But, he's very involved with submarines, and Cargo Metrics was his company, which was all to do with the oceans and all of this. And I think a lot of this all goes back to Israel. And I think Israel has a strong hand in this.
Why do you think many American wars are related to Israel?
Because of the Holocaust, because of the fact that lots of people who are in power in America are Jewish. And I have many Jewish friends and I have many Palestinian friends. And I say, there should be peace between all of them.
I agree. And I think it goes beyond countries. This evil empire, the deep state, they just want to create mayhem. And that's how they buy the assets cheap. And they rebuild it and bill it to the taxpayers. And I said they were going to create a bloodbath in Iran, and they're presently carpet bombing the crap.
I think you are correct, and this is a stupid war. And who's going to profit from it? Probably Donald Trump, who wants to do property developments all over it, like he wanted to do with, that region of the world, also Gaza. Let's build a resort. That's what he does. He likes building a resort. We don't need that anymore. We need some rationality and we need some reason.
And our hearts go out to all the innocent civilians in Iran and Israel who are being blood sacrificed by this evil empire who just...
Precisely. I totally agree with you. 100%.
Yeah. All right. So next question is, do the elites have a new island to do these things to the girls on?
Well, there will be somebody else doing this, of course. There will be another scandal. It will happen, but we haven't got through this scandal yet. But I think, let's remember, we still have the Mohammed Fayed scandal. We still have the Savile scandal. We have all sorts of other stories that we should be talking about. There's not just this scandal. But this scandal is weird because so much information is available and it's just impossible to go through it all at the right speed. So everything just sort of tips out and you get something new every day. It's kind of weird, but I do things my own way, like going banging on the door of a house, which I probably shouldn't be doing, but I was quite happy to do it. I find my own information and I think about it in my way, but I cannot believe how shocking and appalling this is. But as for future ones, yes, there will be more. And I get people writing to me every day about some story of theirs. There is, for example, a man who owns a football club, and he owns children's homes as well, and he is accused of various things. He has what's called slap orders to stop anyone talking about it. I have photographs of him arriving at police stations. He hasn't been charged, but yeah, there's another one. And he's very, very connected with a lot of television personalities, and a man who had a mansion where lots of dirty parties used to go on in Portland Place. There's your hint if you want to go down the rabbit hole, because this man is also someone who's been to jail. So I don't mind dropping him into it, but yeah, that he could be the next one, the football club boss. I think the football club boss should be, he should be investigated. And I think people like you and I ought to be doing more about the British ones because we live in Britain. And I do think the one thing that has been good about this is that we have had all these addresses in Parliament, the humble addresses about Mountbatten, Windsor and Mandelson. At least now we're doing this. We never did that about Savile. So this is a positive change. But I also think it's extremely negative that we're going on about it's all the men that are to blame. I'm sorry, in this story of Maxwell and Epstein, the women enablers like the Countess of Iver and Nicole Junkerman and all these people who are involved, Eva Anderson Dubin. I'm sorry, there's a lot of women that were involved in this, and they should be called out equally. I think we need to expose all of them not just because you're a man. And all this Keir Starmer, we will get down the misogynists and all. It's so woke and it's so boring. And the woke is, as Piers Morgan Wright said, woke is dead. It's time to get rid of this woke nonsense. Wake up. The woke is over.
I know we got a lot of questions coming in about Iran, and we are bringing our military experts in next week.
But let me just say, I am not an expert on wars in Iran, so please don't ask me too many questions about this, because I'm not the expert. So my opinion is as worthless as I use bus tickets, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going on the road tomorrow. I'm back Tuesday. That's when we're bringing the military experts in. I'm speaking at a school, and I'm also doing a talk at the Liverpool
You're
Book
amazing.
Festival.
You travel here, there, and everywhere. And our friend Peter Blexley, who we must give a salute to, he's got 200 tour dates, and what a fantastic man he is. You know, he speaks out about everything. And if I could say there's somebody I really admire, it's Peter Blexley.
I'm just
He
going to put my
shakes up
link.
the world.
If people want to come and see me at the Liverpool Book Festival on
The
March
Liverpool
8th
Book Festival.
at
Perfect.
12:30 p.m., the link is in the live chat, March 8th, 12:30 p.m., and it's also in the description box. All right, so next question from Matthew is, what are your opinions of Rupert Lowe and reform?
Well, lots of my friends are defecting from. I'm not political, but well, I am political, but I'm not. I'm politically homeless. But lots of my friends who are a little more right wing, perhaps, than I, they've had enough of Nigel Farage, and they like Rupert Lowe because they think Rupert Lowe is a little more honest. And he did get 80,000 members within a couple of days, but I don't see how he can actually win, so I don't find him incredibly interesting to me. But I think my support will have to go to the leader of the Conservative Party when it chooses to happen, because as much as I don't think she's ever going to win, we have to have somebody who's got a party that actually has the capability to destroy this rotten and wrong Labour Party. It's got to be who can get them out. And I think the only people who can credibly get rid of this Keir Starmer is Kemi Badenoch's Conservatives. So I do think Rupert Lowe comes across as a decent gentleman, but I think he's it's a bit like the film. Oh gosh, I forget its name. With Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson, and it's set in a country house. This old aristocrat is kind of misguided, and the man played by Christopher Reeve, he says, you know, it's time not to have the amateurs controlling our politics. And sadly, I think Rupert Lowe is a bit like the amateur in Remains of the Day is the name of the movie. But I don't think we need an amateur like Rupert Lowe controlling our politics.
I was very moved reading that book, Remains of the Day.
Because Yoro Ishiguro, yes, he's one of the most lovely gentlemen I've ever met, and what an amazing analysis, given he hadn't been to Britain before he analysed British society in that way. And
wow.
It was based on Oswald Mosley and the Mitford sisters, and I did know the Mitfords quite well. And you know, the Mitfords, we had Unity, who had an affair with Hitler. We had Debo, who was a lovely, lovely, lovely lady who danced with Elvis Presley and became the Duchess of Devonshire. Then we had the other one who went to prison, I forget her name, who married Oswald Mosley. And I got to know Oswald Mosley's son, Max, who, of course, controlled Formula One with the coffin-dodging crook Bernard Eccleston. But, you know, he lived in the shadow of all of that. And it affected a lot of lives, but they were a fascinating family. And that book, yes, I urge anyone to watch that film. I've watched that film probably 15, 16 times, and every time I get something new from it. Because Yoro Ishiguro is a fabulous writer.
Absolutely. I read a few of his others as well. And thank you, Mumbles.
Okay. Well,
thank you, Mumbles, for getting Who Killed Epstein.
And do watch, if you want a nice Friday evening movie, watch The Remains of the Day. It's all about how somebody can't explain a relationship and doesn't do the right thing and ends up lonely, basically. But it's the period in history it covers, and it's so well filmed, beautiful merchant ivory, absolutely one of the best films. I love Kind Hearts and Coronets is another film to watch where Alec Guinness plays, I think, 8 roles, and it's all about how he has to murder the entire family to get through to the title. And those kind of films, we need more of that and less of this Wuthering Heights. And I am a friend of Theo Fennell, but his daughter's film is too much about sex, and it's not to my liking. We need less of this sex, and we need some more civility.
What's about
I'm not Mary Whitehouse. I'm not against people having sex. Do whatever you want. Have fun. Do what you want. Be who you want. It doesn't matter what you do, but we do need a bit more civility in this world.
What about the Trump allegations regarding a 13-year-old?
Well, they are out there and they are potentially credible. I don't know. I have had no contact with those people. My contacts are with people like Anushka DeGiorgio, who is a victim of Ghislaine, a representative of Sarah Ransom. I've never spoken to Sarah Ransom. Juliet Bryant, who my friend went to school with. I sometimes wear clothes by his tailoring company. He's a South African. His family owned a hotel where Juliet met those people because they happened to stay there, and that's not their fault that this happened. But it's all connected. This whole bizarre world. I think that Trump has had so many bad allegations against him. He is certainly not Mr. Innocent, but nor is Mr. Clinton. So let's be honest here. I think the Clinton crime family, the way they behaved at those hearings, with her banging her fists down and shouting and yelling, what is wrong with her? That woman is mad. She's clinically crackers. She is supposedly a woman who wanted to be the president of America, and she's doing this. And look at those faces she pulls. You might
as well paint her green and call her the Wicked Witch of the West.
Well, if anyone had horns coming out of their head, it's her. She is the ultimate devil. And, it's one person who I met, I spoke to, he worked with them. He said, why is it that so many people associated with them who offend them end up dead? I'm not suggesting they're murderers, but they seem to, a lot of suicides seem to link to the old Clintons, don't they?
Absolutely. I did a whole chapter on it.
I know, right. You're an expert on that.
Have you had any threats? Erwin wants to know.
Threats from whom about what? I get threats every day of my life.
Because of the research you're doing and speaking out against the elites.
I've been told that I'm offensive. I should be banned. I should be locked up. I've had people calling me up saying you're a conspiracy nut job. I have it all. It's not as bad as it was with Brexit, though. For me, Brexit was actually worse because I got those Tommy Robinson lunatics, and they're mad. I didn't like those people at all because I was warned that I could be victim to an acid attack, and I had to wear sunglasses. I had bodyguards because one of my friends decided I should have them. I didn't want these bodyguards. I used to run away and I wander around Hyde Park and they'd go mad and they'd come looking for me. But I did have bodyguards for a year. And the bodyguards became my friends, and I'm still in touch with many of the bodyguards. And my friend sitting next to me got to know all these people, and some of them were better than others. And I had to be extremely careful where I sat in a restaurant. I was trained in where I sat because people said you are going to get acid and that's what scared me. It was the acid threat.
Yeah, let's
that poor lady. But that poor lady who. That's where this all becomes crazy. Someone wants to attack you. And Lady Victoria yesterday brought this up herself because one of these victims, she claims, sent her an email, and she showed me the email. Whether this email is real, I don't know. But people do threaten you, and it's not fair, and it's not correct. Nobody should be threatened for having a differing opinion. Yes, you should be able to criticize me, but you should not be able to physically attack me.
All right. Next question, Matthew,
Okay.
is from Trevor. Are there any practical solutions for how we depose these people instead of just talking about them? Because they're not even worth wasting breath on. How do we create a system that serves us, the people?
Well, I think we have been campaigning about this for so long now, and we were told to shut up. And finally, people have started to listen. And finally, people like the Clintons have chosen to go and face a committee where she didn't realize she'd be filmed and the film would be put out. And this is what we have to do. We have to have more transparency. Let's have transparency with our system. Let's have, this the spy MP, Joanne Reid. Let's have her properly investigated. She says it's the worst week of her life. There were no accusations against me. It's not fair, and all of that. So, there we go.
All
I think
right.
I've got about 10 minutes before I have to go. I'm being told I have to be somewhere in 10 minutes. So,
Where is your orange shirt today?
well, today I'm wearing a white shirt for a change. It's a bit of variety in my wardrobe. I do apologize.
All right. So what is under Buckingham Palace? Probably shelters. We're getting ready for World War III.
Well, they don't live. Nobody lives in. They don't live in Buckingham Palace. King Charles lives in Clarence House. No, they don't live in Buckingham Palace. So it doesn't really matter what's underneath Buckingham Palace. Really, it's just it's a place where they give dinners now. It's more of a function room.
Have we learned anything more about Mogens Tolstrup, who went down in the plane crash?
I haven't, but no, it's very sad to hear of his death. I was in his restaurant, Daphne's, the other day, but he doesn't own that anymore. It's owned by a man called Richard Caring, who was in business with the crooked Sir Philip Green.
Is he dead though, Matthew? Because he was in intensive care.
I don't know. I haven't really looked into that, so I can't really answer your question. I will be honest. If I can't answer your question, I can't answer the question.
All right, let me have a look. Is Mogens Tolstrup still alive? I'm going to ask the.
Well, I hope he is alive because
AI.
I don't think he's.
Let's see what the AI says.
He was very involved with a lady called Sophie Anderson, who I did know of. The person sitting next to me knew Sophie Anderson as well, and well, we experienced her and Robert Hanson and all these people, and they were all part of the same era. And the lovely Tara Palmer Tompkinson, who was actually one of the decent ones, I would say she was one of the nicest ones. But I can't say I ever knew Mr. Tolstrup very well. You know, he was just somebody who was here, there, and everywhere.
So he's currently receiving treatment in Cape Town with his family and medical specialists from around the world involved in his care.
Okay, well, I hope he makes a full recovery.
And,
I can't say anything. I cannot say I really knew this man. I knew plenty of people who did know him, but I'm a little bit younger than him, you see, so I wasn't in the same age group. So
how is it possible that the Danish royal family is not mentioned in the Epstein files?
Weren't they? I don't know. I have no idea. Were they not? Why wouldn't they be? Maybe they were. Maybe it wasn't. But I wouldn't think Denmark would be a place as a priority. Like Epstein liked France, Saint-Tropez, Paris. He liked Marrakesh. He liked the British Virgin Islands. He had his routine, and Ghislaine had Israel, France. Because she was born in France on Christmas Day, of course. They had their places, and maybe Denmark was just not on their bucket list. I don't know. I can only answer questions honestly. I'm not an expert.
Well, Matthew, you've answered all the questions. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion before you go?
Well, in conclusion, I'd say thank you ever so much to all of you. You've been delightful, absolutely delectable, and it's been a great pleasure. It would be wonderful if you followed me on my programs. It would be wonderful if you could offer some support to my things. And we'd love to hear more and talk more. But, thank you all for being so kind and cooperative, and it's been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Shaky, for coming on. You have a jolly good rest of your day, my friend. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
All right, folks, we've got the David Icke trailer coming out tomorrow. David Icke pre-record. And I'm going to play the trailer now. I hope you can hear the audio. Let's see what he says, shall we? It was recorded a while ago, but it's more pertinent now than ever. Here we go. Oh, no sound again. Damn it. Damn it. Has it done the no bloody sound thing again? Right. Pausing it. Are you serious? It's done the no sound thing again. All right. What I'm going to do is, fear not. I'm going to download it as a file. Let me find the bloody, I'll find it. I'll download it as a file and I will upload it to StreamYard. So stay tuned. All right, I've got the file. Here it is. Download. It's downloading right now. Shouldn't take long. And I think our first military expert we've got coming on is Matt Ho, ex-Marine Colonel. Yeah, that's done. That's downloaded. And I think that's going to be on Tuesday. So I'm speaking at the Literary Festival in Liverpool on 12:30. And tickets for that are in the description box if you're watching it on replay. All right, media assets. Here we go. I'm getting closer. Let's see. Change brand to normal. Yeah, if anyone wants to come along and watch me talk at the Liverpool Literary Festival, 12:30 on Sunday. Okay, add a file. Doesn't cost much, I think, to come to it. And it's uploading now. And then I'm speaking at schools on Monday. I've got a school talk, and I'm speaking to the parents as well, 2 talks. So I'm not back till late Monday night. So my next stream is going to be with Captain Matthew Ho on the Iran War on Tuesday. I think we've got that one down for 4 p.m. All right, David Icke trailer is uploading right now, folks. I'm going to play it in a second. Sunday morning, I've also got a pre-record coming out of an interview we did towards the end of last year of a cop who was ordered to stand down and not arrest Jimmy Savile with kids. Her boss told her to stand down and not arrest Jimmy Savile with kids. This is out of Leeds. Yeah. All right. Trailer's ready. David Icke. While you're watching it, I will put the link in the chat so you can set your alarms because you know these are shadow banned. I'll also put it in
looking at Prince Andrew, who, if he had a brain cell, it would die of loneliness. And there were microphones and cameras all over these Epstein properties. So once you were there and you partook, they had control of you. These questions of the British royal family have to be asked. Okay, some time's passed, but so what? The same questions that have never been asked have to be asked. What was this record-breaking doing in your inner sanctum for decade after being introduced by a known... Charles, you must have known what he was. Don't tell me you didn't know. This was the thing. Oh, no one told us. Oh, come on, man. So why were you his mate all along when you knew what he was doing? Same as you would ask the question of Gates. Why were you continuing to be a friend and associate of Epstein when he'd already been prosecuted for... What was the Epstein network? What was that ring? It was a ring of compromising famous people, influential people, people in politics, people in royalty. So you had control of them. So you look at Epstein, he was quite blatantly an agent. What's kind of funny is the kind of inversion, whereby you're supposed to walk 3 steps behind royalty or something, like Prince Philip behind the Queen. But now we've got Prince Harry, who walks 3 steps behind his missus from Suits or whatever show she was on. The thing about this global cult is that you can serve it, and if you serve it, you get enormous benefits. I mean, Bill Gates, I rest my case. But, and again, this would apply to the whole Epstein situation as well. If you become not just surplus to requirements to this cult, but you become a potential danger to what they don't want to coming out, they'll cut you off without a second thought. And you know, they're quite happy for you to be destroyed. So you have to look at all these things when we're looking at the Epstein situation. Even today, they're doing the same rituals they did in Babylon, because it's the frequency that they're generating.
And the loosh that they harvest from the blood sacrifice of so many people, the carpet bombing of Iran, the blood sacrifice that David has been calling out for years, and everybody laughed at him, and here it is right in our face. Day by day, I'm watching horrified as it all unfolds, how people all over the world are going to suffer because of this crazy, insane attack on Iran. And when David was calling this stuff out years ago, the alternative mainstream media were supporting Trump, saying he was the peace president. He would never do anything like this. Trump himself was using the very same arguments against people like Obama as to why he shouldn't invade Iran. And all the other presidents, none of them were crazy enough to green light something so precarious for the rest of the world. So it's disgusting, from the US service people who have been murdered already to the school kids in the hospitals getting bombed. All that blood is on Trump's hands and his co-conspirators, because you know he's just a front man for the deep state and the banking cartel. They're the one pulling the strings. They're the one who've got the Epstein compromat on him. So absolute evil going on in the world right now, and we're all going to pay a price for it. This could very easily spread. I wrote a letter home from prison in, I think it was 2007, and I said that world wars, this is to my parents, I said that world wars usually start with the superpower gobbling up too many small countries because they're so greedy. That's how they extract resources, foreign resource extraction, keep the empire going. But eventually the other largest countries get sick of it because they want their share of the resources as well. So they step in at some point. They let so many little countries go, but it gets to the point where they step in. And the question is now, is Russia going to step in? Is China going to step in? Because that's the point there where it's just going to escalate beyond anything we have seen before in our lifetimes, because they're all so nuclear capable. So yeah, he's put all our lives on the lines. And if you've got kids out there, it's disgusting to think, what kind of future are they going to be facing? Nuclear bloody winters, trying to survive whatever the hell it is, because it could very easily escalate to the annihilation of most of the people of the world. If you look at how many people die each century from World War, it's a function of technology, and technology advances so fast. And it's like exponential, isn't it? With AI and everything else, Palantir. America is a death machine, a killing machine. That's what they're good at. Bombing the poorest countries of the world into oblivion. It was never about, we're going to liberate the people. they use that lame-ass excuse over and over again. It's so condescending, the same cliches that they use on us. Like we're going to fall for it, but just change it a little bit from the Saddam Hussein weapons of mass destruction. Like, oh, Iran's got nukes. Well, they told us they bombed the hell out of their nukes because they were the biggest, grandest bombing campaign in the history of the world, Trump said last year. Iran didn't have nukes anymore, but same old nukes, bollocks, going to liberate the people, bollocks. They're killing the people right now, thousands of them dead, kids, everything. Anyway, we will be getting the military experts on next week. My whole team is ill. I've been ill for a few days. My tonsils are big and red. I don't know if you can see them. I've almost lost my voice. Got my jar of honey here. Ron's ill. Shane's ill. Ben, the guest booker, is MIA. But once I get back from the Liverpool Book Festival and the school talks, I'll get all over the war coverage with our military experts. I look forward. I'm watching this. I'm watching it nonstop. Scott Ritter, Professor Zhang. Professor Zhang is great. He called it totally. Yeah, vitamin C. I've got some oranges over here as well. And Nima's channel, Judge Napolitano's channel, Danny Haifeng's channel. I would recommend all those channels to people who want to keep abreast of what's happening in the Middle East, as opposed to what the BBC. The BBC are part of the problem. All of these mainstream media stations, they're part of the war machine, folks. They're bought and owned by the military-industrial complex interests. They're saying that they're winning the war. It's going to be over soon. Nonsense. This is going to be a protracted, nasty, and up the escalation ladder we go. And it's a shame, isn't it, that these demons have got power over us. They've got so much power over us in the hand of just a few of these demons. Well, they need to